Good morning. I'm Attorney Jackie Patterson, and I'm here to announce that my office has filed a $150 million lawsuit against Cobb County and the officer that's involved in this fatal, unjustified shooting of Vincent Truitt. Fortunately, we filed this case on January the 11th of this year, and we had the officer served on the day that Dr. King celebrated his birthday, which was last Monday. We felt it was befitting that we had the officer served on that day to send a message based upon what Dr. King said in 1963. He said that out of mountain of despair, there comes a stone of hope. And as a result of filing this $150 million lawsuit, we hope that it would bring some hope to the family of Vincent Truitt. This was clearly an unjustifiable shooting, and Mr. Truitt posed no threat to anyone in this particular case. And I'm going to now turn it over to Attorney Gerald Griggs, who will discuss further.
First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for being here. This is the next step in justice for Vincent DeMario Truitt. It's been a pleasure to represent this family with two able attorneys, both Jackie Patterson and Maria Banjo, and together we will continue to litigate this matter. It was important that we filed this $150 million lawsuit because it's time for justice and accountability in this case. There's been a lot of conjecture about what happened in this case, and it's time to bring it to a court to actually prove the facts of this case as we know them. So we're going to have the family speak. They're going to give a limited statement, and then we will talk a little bit more extensively about why we feel it's necessary to file this lawsuit and what the next steps will be. So the next voice you will hear will be Venethia Cook Lewis, who is the mother of Vincent DeMario Truitt.
I am the proud mother of Vincent DeMario Truitt. On July 13, 2020, being shot in the back twice, Vincent asked a very important question. Why did you shoot me? Till this day, his question has yet to be answered. He took his last breath one day before my birthday. My son was a bright and ambitious teen with an unforgettable personality. He was a loving person, no violent history whatsoever. He loved to joke around, always making people laugh. He was a very respectable kid with manners. Vincent was a proud member of Bullitt Baptist Church and a pillar to his community. He volunteered with different organizations such as Hosea Feed the Hungry. At the age of 8, he became a member of an organization called PAL, P-A-L. Those initials stands for the Police Athletic League. There he became a star basketball player, playing his last championship with the late Officer Stanley Lawrence. He played football there for the Police Athletic League. He attended after-school programs for the Police Athletic League. He volunteered as a counselor during summer camp for the Police Athletic League, only to have his life taken by the police. I was presented with this plaque from that same organization, and it states, Vincent will never be forgotten by PAL. Vincent's name and likeness will forever be in our gym. Thank you for trusting us with your son for so many years. My son had big dreams to continue his entrepreneurship. He had just started his own business, designing clothing, working on his brand GFN, Going for Nothing. He made music. He also worked as a Georgia certified soccer referee. He just received his driver's license and planning to purchase his first car with his hard-earned money. Planning a funeral nor designing a marker was never in our future. Vince was a first child, first grandchild, first nephew, first real joy of my life. We lived, we grew, and learned a lot together, and now he's gone forever. I'm so lonely without him. I'll never be the same. My pain starts from the time I open my eyes. I visit his gravesite every day of my life. It's the only place that I find peace. Officer Max stole my gift of love from my son. No more morning hugs, no more MVP trophies, no more cell phone, calling his cell phone, no more future plans. I'll never hear his voice again. I'll never see his face again. I'll never know the plans he had for my birthday. I'll now decorate a piece of land where his deteriorating body remains. That's all I have left. Two statements that will haunt me forever. One being from the GBI investigator. Yes, the person in this picture is deceased. The second being my son's last words. Why did you shoot me? I'm dying. I am disgusted in the way Cobb County has handled Vince's murder. His rights were violated. Our rights were violated. We were lied to several times. And now, in our most vulnerable time of our life, we were disrespected numerous times by Cobb County DA Flynn Brody. From my understanding, the laws are meant for everyone, including the police. So why am I fighting for my son's justice? In what world do you just shoot a kid in the back and get away with it? Vince's life mattered. He didn't deserve to be maliciously shot down while his back was turned. He should be alive today. So, just like Vince, I too have a question. 2 shots to the back, how can you justify that? I want to thank y'all for giving me this time to speak. Thank you.
And so now you also hear from Vincent's father, Andre Truitt.
Hello, how's everybody doing? I'm the proud father of Vincent DeMario Truitt. My son was unjustly shot in the back by a Cobb County police officer named Max Carneal. Where in this world do you shoot a teenager in the back twice and get away with it? My shirt says, "Why did you shoot me?" Those are the last words of my son. My son had enough gall while he was shot on the ground to ask that officer, "Why did you shoot me?" And he also told the officer, "No, I didn't." We won't stop until we get justice for Vincent DeMario Truitt. Thank you.
We also have a proud grandmother here who has been with this family since the inception. And so she has a few words about Vincent DeMario Truitt.
Good morning. I want to appeal to any grandmother who has had the privilege and the blessing of holding a grandchild in their arms. Vincent was my first grandchild. I loved him as though he were my own. I thanked his parents for having him for me. It was like another chance to have another son. But instead, we are here today discussing the wrongdoing of those leaders who are supposed to enforce the law, not make the law. With reference to our treatment, this family has been treated in such a condescending manner by a vacuous individual named Flynn Brody. How dare he talk down to this family at a time when we are grieving the loss of a grandchild. This family has gone through a lot of torture, torment, judgment. But one thing that I like to say is during this week of remembering Dr. King and his work, I refer to the Battle Hymn of the Republic. The call of the trumpet has been sounded that will not retreat. I thank you for listening. Thank you for this time.
And now we will hear from co-counsel Maria Banjo as she shares the next pathway forward for justice for Vincent Truitt.
Thank you again for coming out here this morning. As you've heard, this family is just looking for one thing, and that's accountability. Their day in court to seek justice for their child that was taken too soon, unjustifiably, and against the law. And so with these new convictions that have been happening all across the U.S. gives us hope that he will get a fair shake in our justice system. It's not guaranteed. Many times it has been denied to countless families. But here and now, we are seeking our day in court. We are seeking that this case be judged merely on the facts, not what's convenient, and not what's politically best. And so when that happens, you'll see that we will be able to get justice. Thank you.
And so the reason why we're here is because a 17-year-old was unjustifiably gunned down by a public servant in Cobb County, and that the district attorney did not have the temerity, the gumption, and the courage to present this to a real grand jury and not a civil grand jury. All across this nation, families have been lobbying and marching and fighting for justice. And in the birthplace of civil rights, the cradle of the civil rights movement, it should be the same. In Cobb County and Fulton County and all over North Georgia, it should be the same. There should be a trumpet of justice being sounded. And so we're proud to stand with this family and demand that a federal civil jury hear the evidence in this case. And we believe that evidence will speak to the fact that he was unjustifiably shot in his back and that there needs to be accountability for this officer, but also for Cobb County. You know, as someone that grew up and spent a substantial time in Metro Atlanta between Fulton County, DeKalb County, and Cobb County, I'm truly ashamed of Cobb County right now. They promised this family justice. They promised them fairness in the process, but did not provide that. So that's what federal court is for. And so we are also continuing to call on the Justice Department to launch a full and thorough investigation into the shooting death of Vincent DeMario Truitt and file civil rights charges against this officer, because there is still time for criminal accountability. We are taking this step today, as Mr. Patterson has outlined, that we filed this lawsuit for $150 million. We believe that is the largest civil lawsuit of this kind in this state. And we are hopeful that the citizens of Cobb County will call on their elected officials to do the right thing. Many of them ran on a slogan of a new day in Cobb. Well, it seems like the same old day, the same old cover-up. But it's still time for Cobb County to do what's right. You know, Dr. King always said, the time is now, the time is right to do what's right. And that's what we must do. So if you want to honor the cradle of the civil rights movement, you have to accept social justice. And social justice means reform and accountability, not just words. So it's time for Cobb County to cease with the talking and see us in court. If you have any questions this time, we will entertain questions.
Why would you say the $150 million figure is justified in this case?
Because of the reason why Vincent DeMario Truitt was shot in his back unjustifiably, and that we believe that a figure that high will send a message to never ever do this again, to reform your system, and to hold the officers accountable for the unjustifiable killing of Vincent DeMario Truitt.
So the gun has been the issue from Cobb Police standpoint, that he was holding a gun. What is your response to that?
My response to the law is quite clear. He did not pose a imminent threat to the officer. It was unjustifiable. He was running away when he was shot in his back twice. We believe the case law is on our side. We believe the facts are on our side. We also believe that if the Cobb County District Attorney would present this to a real criminal grand jury with charges and a decision to true bill or no bill, they will return a bill of indictment against this officer, and then a criminal jury will determine his guilt.
Gerald, can you kind of touch on that again? Because I think for people who don't practice law like yourself and your colleagues, it's a little confusing that I guess this was presented to a civil grand jury, not a criminal.
It was presented to a grand jury for a recommendation to continue the investigation. That's not how the criminal process works in most cases, and there should not be a different set of laws for officers. It should have been presented to a criminal grand jury, and the reason why we know it was not presented to a criminal grand jury, the officer in the state has a right to testify before a criminal grand jury before an indictment is returned. That didn't happen. So what we're asking is for the Cobb County District Attorney's Office to present this to a criminal grand jury and to let the citizens of Cobb County speak through an indictment. But currently we're pushing forward with civil action, and we believe through that civil action we will uncover even more facts of how egregious this is and the pattern and practice of abuse that is occurring in Cobb County.
So basically, it's up to the DA to impanel the grand jury, right?
Absolutely.
So if he doesn't do that, do you go up next to the feds? How do you get justice? In your words, getting justice in your day in court. If the DA is not going to go forward with this, what do you guys do?
Well, there's always speaking with the U.S. Attorney and the Attorney General of the United States, which we hope to continue to have those conversations about civil rights violations. So if there's no pathway forward with a state criminal conviction, there's always a pathway forward with a federal criminal process and potential conviction.
So you've already started talking to the U.S. Attorney's Office?
We've already had conversations with the U.S. Attorney.
What is the response?
We are still waiting for their investigation, and we're hopeful that investigation will result in an indictment and federal criminal charges against this officer.
Piggybacking off the gun, if you zoom in frame by frame, you can't definitively tell, I guess, what he's holding. Can you kind of just reiterate that that's part of your argument?
Absolutely. At no point was this young man, this 17-year-old child, running away from police, posing a threat of imminent bodily harm or death to that officer. That's clear in Georgia law. It's clear in federal law. And so, you know, whether he had a gun or not, and it's kind of grainy in the video footage, but we will fully litigate that issue. He was not a threat, and we believe that the law is on our side, and we should continue to press forward.
Gerald, you talk
And
about this as a top.
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to mention, you know, with regards to that question, you know, for far too long, Black Americans do not have the same rights to bear arms. The Second Amendment, we know time and time again, does not apply equally. When a Black American, a Black person, has a firearm, it does not give law enforcement a blank slate to respond, to shoot, and kill as they see fit. Even when Black Americans tell the officers, I have a firearm, I have a gun, I am scared, it doesn't matter. They still end up murdered, they still end up killed. So as you're asking these questions regarding whether or not Vincent had a firearm, it's important to ask, it's not just, did he have it? What were you doing with it? This is America, right? We have the right to bear arms. So the right question would be, what was happening with that firearm? Did the officer feel in fear of his life? Did Vincent do anything proactively to put that officer in reasonable fear of his life? And the evidence and the facts would demonstrate that he did not. That is the important question to ask, and that is the answer.
Next question.
No, I was gonna ask you, you talked about social justice and starting to see how things have changed, I guess, over the last year when it comes to trials, but the fact that this isn't moving forward, what kind of message does this send to the black community that has, worked so hard to get social justice and work for change, and here you are kind of, I guess, stuck in the mud? What does this send?
It sends a message that elected officials should pay less lip service to social justice and more action. We saw what happens when you put a case up before a jury down in Brunswick. Let's see that same energy in Cobb County. So I think it says a lot to the activists and the families that we can travel to other places in Georgia and get justice in places that are more conservative than what's supposedly a liberal bastion of equity, which is Cobb County now. And so I think that the message needs to be sent to the elected officials that it's time to actually do the work of social justice. And so that can start with Vincent DeMario Truitt's case. There are other cases, of course, throughout Metro Atlanta that need to be addressed, but it needs to start with this one. Any other questions?
Any way y'all can spell, I need to get the spelling of some names
Okay.
that you mentioned. How do you spell the mother's name?
Okay, Venethia.
Venethia Cook, V as in Victor, E-N-E-T as in Tom, H-I-A. Last name Cook, C-O-O-K.
Jackie.
They already got Jackie Patterson, Jackie-Patterson, but you can label the media being the Bentley lawyer. I'm the Bentley lawyer.
Maria.
And Maria Banjo, like an instrument.
Andre.
That's A-N-D-R-A-E, and of course you know Truitt.
Deborah, capital D-E-B-O-R-A-H, middle initial E, last name Howard.
You said Howard?
Yes, H-O-W-A-R-D, also with the capital letter.
And I'm Attorney Gerald Griggs, G-E-R-A-L-D, G-R-I-G-G-S, referred to as the Justice Fighter. But I just want everybody who's watching to understand that this family is still grieving and that they deserve justice, and that a court of law will determine the facts and circumstances that occurred in this case. And we believe once a court of law has looked at that, looked at the video, listened to the words of the officer on the scene and after the scene, and know that this shooting was not justified and that there should be accountability. And for the district attorney in Cobb County, there's still time to present this to a criminal grand jury. You have 2 bites at the apple, and so it's time to present it to a criminal grand jury. We need progressive prosecution in words and deeds, and it starts with Vincent DeMario Truitt. Any other questions? Well, we thank you for giving us some time, and we thank you for helping us get this story out. I know Vincent's parents thoroughly appreciate that. We thoroughly appreciate all of the support from everyone from around the country, and this fight is just getting started.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.